All right, welcome to Talking Ball with Stephen Willis and Bill Flowers. Right here, we're talking about the Tulane game. We're going to look ahead towards Alabama. We're excited about that. But first, just to close the book on the Tulane game, what did you see? How Ole Miss attacked that defense with the run game earlier? How did you see that going?
I felt like that was exactly what Kiffin wanted to do. He wanted to control the narrative. When we talked about this upcoming game against Tulane, we talked about how they needed to establish the run. They needed to be able to handle Tulane exactly the way that they needed to handle them. And that's exactly what they did. They were able to control the ball physically up front. They were able to get the ball going. They were able to establish the run, to bring the safeties up. So early on, that's exactly what I would have done. That's exactly I think any offensive coordinator would like to do is if you have the ability to establish the run and you have a power, you have the ability to just put points up through the air. First thing you want to do is just break their backs and just show them it's going to be a long day. We're going to establish the run. We're going to keep you guys up. We're going to do exactly what you don't want us to do, which is establish the run, and that's exactly what we did. And so it didn't surprise me that was the first thing that Kiffin wanted to do.
Yeah, do you have any games from your playing career that was like that, to where it just seemed like everything was working offensively?
Yeah, I think we played Arkansas State my junior year, and they pulled us out of the game after I want to say like two quarters. I mean, at the half, it was just like playing against junior high. You just could do everything you wanted to do, and the defense knew that there was nothing they could do, and that's where Tulane looked like, and which is what you want to see. You want to
Yeah.
see them just want to wave the white flag and just say, look, all we can do is just collect our money and go back home.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. Um, on the defensive side of the ball, what did you see that the defense was able to do? Because they just dominated Tulane and shut them down in the second half. The first half there was a couple of explosive plays, but the
Yeah.
defense seems to be rounding into form a little bit.
They do. What I like to see is I like seeing Tulane was 1 for 13 for
Mhm.
on third downs. That is I mean, if you're gonna see if you want to look at analytics, 1 for 13 on third down is huge. So to me, that's just showing you that your defensive backs are coming up. They're tackling. They're doing exactly what they need to do. Your defensive line is getting pressure, putting pressure on that quarterback. So they did everything I wanted them to see. Yes, there were some after our turnover, they went down on a drive where they were able to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
They got underneath our cover two, had a corner pass, got some running going, and then that was their drive. Other than that, our defense established the narrative early on of we're going to bring physicality that you're not used to, and that's exactly what they did. That's what you want to see. So I'm really proud of how our defense is playing with just a sense of physicality, of confidence, and I mean that's all you could ask for.
Yeah, and hopefully against Alabama we get Jake Springer back, who is considered our second or third best defender on the team, but he's been out for a couple of weeks. Now, Jonathan Mingo has really came on against Austin P. We were just hesitant about that to see if it was a blip, but he looked really good against Tulane. Do you think he's turned a corner? What is he doing out there?
I think Jonathan Mingo is. I think you have really good athletes on our team. They're all great players. That's just having just a plethora of great talent that they have recruited. But what happens when you have Drummond and you have him, for the last two games, he's been the workhorse. You have a burner that that Sanders can just outrun you. So you have to keep eye on Sanders. You have to keep an eye on Drummond. What happens is you have your Mingo is going to step up and have a big game. So that's what you want. You want to see that. You expect that. And so some days, some games, it's going to be Drummond. Some days it's going to be It's going to be Mingo, and some days it's going to be Sanders. So it's not really surprising so much. But I'll tell you what kind of shocked me was that Mingo was able to take advantage of him being the deep threat. That's what gave me an eye opening of, man, Mingo really does have more than maybe what I expected. I know they're all good receivers. They can all do what they have to do, but his speed of being able to stretch the field on Saturday was what really shocked me.
Yeah, and you can see they're actively trying to get Braylon Sanders some balls because it probably
Yes.
gets lonely over there. But they're trying different ways to get him connected. Now, turning the page a little bit to Alabama, and I broke down a couple of plays today. It's over on the YouTube page and all that. But it seemed like Florida, their main thing they were doing, they were outnumbering Alabama on the outside, and they were taking advantage of the linebackers in space, which tells me we need a tight end to step up against Alabama.
Do you realize how many times Florida rushed the ball on Alabama?
How many times?
42 times. I think they rushed for a total of 258 yards. When's the last time you've seen Alabama give up 258 yards on the ground?
Ole Miss last year.
Is that 200?
Yeah, we rushed for 280 last year.
Okay. And this is what's really interesting. How many yards do you think Alabama had rushing?
Oh, I don't think it's much. Did they get over 100?
No, they didn't.
Oh.
So, like, you take that, like, to me, if I take anything away from the Alabama Florida game, is that this is not the typical Alabama team. Yeah. You have power offensive line that allows great talent to do what they do and get 150 yards a game. Your defense has got great up front talent and is going to stop the line and is going to create the narrative of you're not going to get ground game. I was shocked when I saw that. But I will tell you what I'm afraid of. And I'm afraid that Ole Miss somehow, some way, is always that team that they're the team that they have there's some lightning rod that other team has. And I'll tell you, Cadillac Williams, when we played Auburn, no one knew who he was. All of a sudden, he came out. There's a number of times where we've played teams, and all of a sudden, somebody does something. Well, okay, against Florida, they had the quarterback that no one knew. He was a freshman. He went to West Virginia.
Driscoll.
Not Driscoll, but
I know who you're talking. Will Greer.
Will Greer. He comes out and just like, who is this guy? Like, okay, so there's a number of times where we play people, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, this guy just comes out to shine. Young, his ability to run is there. He is not running, and it's driving people nuts. And I'm afraid that do you know how many yards he had rushing against Florida?
Can't be many.
-1. So to me, what's going to happen, what I'm terrified of, is that they're going to say, listen, you're going to start running the ball. I don't care what you're thinking about. You're going to start running the ball. You're going to take what the defense gives you, and you're going to run. And, that's where he's a great passer. But he's not taking what the defense gives him with his feet. And at some point, he's going to have to start taking that. And I just hope that this is not an eye-opening moment for him that, listen, you better run for at least 50 yards against Ole Miss. Because when you drop 8 and, our defensive backs have done a great job of really, coming up and making tackles, it's just, I think that's the only thing that really scares me against Alabama this year.
Yeah, and it could happen because Bryce Young is a phenomenal quarterback. I think he was number 1 in his class coming out. Now, I think they're protecting him and don't want him running so much because he's so slight of frame. It's kind of the Dexter McCluster thing where everybody kept waiting on Dexter to get hurt, and then he never did. So whenever that confidence get there, I think Bryce Young's really going to take off. And also, Bill O'Brien being the offensive coordinator, if you look back to Deshaun Watson at Houston didn't run the ball much. He kind of just sat in the pocket and distributed. Great quarterback, could have been even deadlier if he'd have ran the ball.
Well, I do think there's also this misconception that, hey, you know, I'm a running quarterback. And it's sort of like, listen, you need to take that out of your mindset. You're a quarterback. You take what the defense gives you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a runner today, you're a runner today. If you're a passer today, you're a passer today. It doesn't matter what skin color. It doesn't matter, how big you are or what. At the end of the day, you're all football players, and no one's going to stereotype you. You're going to do what you're going to do, and if you're going to be great, you got to take what the defense gives you. And right now, he's not taking what the defense gives him, and that's what's scaring me, because you can tell he's a great passer and he's got great talent out there to throw it to. And if you want to start creating havoc, is let somebody who's a great thrower have the ability to run, and that's a concern that I have.
Yeah, and if the defense just knows that you're not going to run, they can just sit back and just absorb the coverage and do all that. Alabama had 3 and outs against Florida Saturday, which really allowed the Gators to get back into the game. But going back to what I was saying earlier, looking at the film and just looking at the TV copy of what's going on, there's the space behind the linebackers. There's the RPO playing with the linebacker. They're hyper aggressive against the run. That's a Nick Saban trait. So that is kind of there. So what do you think? Do you think Casey Kelly actually gets on the field this week or next week? Do you think that Chase Rogers has the breakout? Do you think Dontario Drummond plays the tight end position and they add a third wide receiver, put him and Ja'Cour Pearson on the field at the same time?
I think we're crazy to not think that Kiffin is not holding his cards to his chest right now.
No.
He has got many cards right now that he's going to play. The first one that comes to my mind is Ely.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen him once motioned him out and really used him as that slot receiver? And I mean, like, that's going to be a problem, I'm telling you. He is a nightmare. He's a matchup nightmare. And so I think you're going to use him as trying to match him up on some backers. I do think that they're going to probably use Drummond some more inside. We saw that he did play the tight end position, kind of the hide camouflage him behind the tight end, and he rolled out and caught a ball for a touchdown. It would not surprise me if they start playing him more in that position, because you do have enough talent out there to facilitate that. I don't know about the tight ends. I have a hard time thinking that. It's hard to hide talent at times. Meaning, if you've already played, 2 games, you think you would see something like, wow, like, okay, this guy's got something. I haven't seen that in the tight ends yet, and maybe that's just because he's just doing it whatever he can to not show, what, these guys can run down the field. These guys can do what we need them to do. But that's a serious problem for teams in the SEC if Ole Miss shows they've got a tight end. And so it makes you wonder. Kiffin knows that, and I mean he's a savant when it comes to offense. So, and mismatching people and everything. So there's got to be something there where either we just don't have it or he's just not showing it. But it's kind of hard not to see it. I mean, you would think you would have seen something, but putting Drummond and defensively, we're at a place where I don't think we've maybe ever been to be able to match Alabama across the board in regards to, you know what, you play them 10 times, you might beat them once. And I think that's kind of how it's been in the past. I think this time, us meeting Alabama, I think Alabama is primed to be upset. They don't seem to be what they've been, and Ole Miss has more talent in those areas where you need to be in order to run the table long term on the SEC and to do things consistently.
Yeah, and what do you think about the defensive front moving into the Alabama game? It's going to be because Sam Williams and Cedric Johnson, they're kind of slight guys. There's going to be a lot to deal with that nose guard.
I think there is, and I think that we're definitely going to want to make sure that you do not allow Alabama to establish the run. And in the past, that's what they've always wanted to do. As we see against Florida, they didn't rush for they rushed for less than 100 yards. Um, so I think that Ole Miss is we have done enough up front so far to make me feel like, hey, you know what? Our defensive backs are really doing well at flying toward the ball, making the tackles on the peripheral edges. Our linebackers are coming up when they need to. I will say this: I feel like we absolutely have to bring pressure somewhere every play. I think that right now, the one thing that I've seen is that if we do not bring pressure somewhere, that's when we get punched in the mouth. That's where we have to bring pressure. You have to put the quarterback in an uncomfortable place. And I don't think right now we have the ability with the 3-2-5 to be able to unless you have. I mean, when you have a 3-2-5, what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to keep the middle uh, clogged up. You're wanting to bring that. You're wanting to bring an end. You're wanting to bring an edge rusher. But what happens is if you can do that, then you bring a linebacker in, and then that's that's where you're causing the problem. And if you can get the quarterback to make a quick decision when he doesn't want to, you you have all those defensive backs there. That's where the problems comes in. So I think we're going to have to bring pressure. We cannot sit there and not bring pressure. And when you have defensive backs that are tackling like in safeties like they are, that gives you a lot more confidence to bring the blitz because if something happens, you got a security net.
Yeah, yeah, and if they, quarterbacks have trouble the first time they see the drop eight. Same thing happened to Matt Corral last year. Quarterback Arkansas made a living as being the first team that people saw that happen. Bo Nix had problems against it last year. Will Rogers had lots of problems. Not Will Rogers. Whoever was playing quarterback at Mississippi State, but this will be the first time Bryce Young sees that. That I think that's something that could actually lead to him being more of a running threat, like you said, because his confidence throwing the ball might not be there.
Well, and that's why it's so important to bring a backer. You've got to do that. Um, I when we played Florida with Tebow, I said, listen, you're going to have to bring the two edges and keep your middle just plugged. If you do that, you're going to force Tebow to do things that he doesn't want to do. If you have got a guy that doesn't really want to run and his focus is passing, you drop eight or you drop six and you bring a backer and make him be uncomfortable, that's when they make mistakes. So if we don't bring pressure, I think it's going to be a long day. But uh, every time we bring pressure, it gives us. You can tell it allows the defense to do what they're designed to do.
Yeah. Were you on the team that went over there with Eli in 2002?
To Alabama,
Tuscaloosa. Yeah.
yes. That was our homecoming game. That was their homecoming game,
Okay.
and they drilled us just ridiculously. I mean, I think they beat us like by 35 points, and then we returned the favor to them the next following
Yes,
year.
yeah, obviously. But what happened that day?
I don't even think about it. I mean, I just remember us getting absolutely destroyed, and I mean, they probably they probably were able to establish the line of scrimmage. They were able to it's been so long ago for me to remember. I mean, all I remember about it is just that we got we got drugged through the mud.
Was that did they have Sean Alexander? Was that game?
No, that he
That was he did that to Deuce. That's
two
when
that yeah
Deuce went over there. Yeah, there was a
yeah
stretch where it seems like Ole Miss and some other teams would walk in and they would defer to Alabama so much to where there's going to be a slow start and then that momentum gets going and Alabama just rolls. I think there are teams that lose the game based off of who they're playing. They overly defer respect to them instead of, I don't know,
yeah
looking at
that
themselves.
that won't be Ole Miss. If Alabama has one team that they know that they're going to get their best crack at from is that's Ole Miss. Having Kiffin, no, it's they know that Ole Miss is primed for this. This is what they've been built for. I mean, listen, the defense last year was atrocious. This year they are absolutely hair on fire. I think the transfer portal is something that allows you to take a little bit of a different mindset and bring it to your team. And I think that's what's happened. So I think you're not only getting a different mindset, but you're getting an addition in players, and so you're getting an upside in talent, but an upside in mentality. You know, you take a team that's just got their brain brashed in last year on defense, and bring in some people that know how to play and know how to win, and supplement that with our defense, and you're seeing that. So I think this is the year that Alabama walks in and says, "Here's the other guy across the field that says, yeah, we can probably beat you." And believe me, if we have a chance to beat you, we will bash your head in. And they know that the Ole Miss will do that. So I think right now, Alabama is the team right now, in my opinion, that has more to think about and more to lose when having to play that mental mindset.
Do you think they're feeling the pressure a little bit, knowing what's
Oh,
coming?
100%. I think they know they're not who they're. I mean, listen, when you continue to lose first round draft picks, you have to replenish that. When you don't rush for 100 yards and you get rushed on for 200, almost 50, 258 yards, you know you got problems. When you know the same team that about beat you last year, when you had probably one of the better teams to ever play college football in the last 10 years, and they about beat you, and you know you have less talent this year. I mean, you don't have to be a psychologist to get in someone's head to figure out if they're concerned or not.
Yeah, I think about this game, and the more I come back to is just Ole Miss play clean, no penalties, no
Yeah,
turnovers, just play clean and let it take care of itself because
yeah,
I think they have what it takes to do it.
yeah. I do too, and I think that's what they are. I mean, that's obviously going to be their objective. Saban's not, this isn't his first rodeo, so he's going to throw everything he can at Corral, and this is just. I think you have two heavyweights in the ring. One's the young guy coming up with more to win, less to lose, and that's where that's a scary opponent, and I think Alabama knows that.
All right. This has been Talking Ball with Bill Flowers. He comes by every week, talks about the game at hand and the game coming up. We're going to do Alabama again next week because we enjoy talking about this and having a lot of fun. So I want to thank you, Bill. And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.